Hey there, all you creepers and reapers. Welcome to the Femme Fatalities and happy holiday season. Today we have something super special for you. I'm your co-hostess Anna, and I'm here with...
Hey, Grievelings and Frightlings, it's Margaret and Anna. What are we talking about? Where are we going?
We're talking about Christmas movies today. And in my opinion, one of the most ultimate, awesome, amazing Christmas movies ever. That's right, we're talking about Die Hard. So grab your coffin cookies and your bruja brew and scuttle on up next to your creeper reader lazy chair and have a listen because we have a lot to say today.
Yes, we do. Trigger warnings.
Explosions, hostile takeovers, terrorism, corporate America, divorce, child endangerment.
Exploitation?
Hmm?
I
Yeah,
said exploitation. What the reporter
exploitation.
does?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
feels like
that's, yeah.
exploitation.
Yeah, also uh exploitation of underrepresented demographics as well. Gun violence.
Power dynamics in underrepresented populations and workplace.
Yes, absolutely. Blood. There's a good bit of blood.
Yeah.
Which I enjoy. But yeah, and also, I don't know if this is really a trigger, but if it is for you, I'm going to mention it. Anyone listening, exploitation of persons from specific areas of Europe. At the time, it was German, so a lot of that going on too.
Yes. Oh, thank you. I appreciate you touching on right at the time when Die Hard came out and the United States relationship with Germany and Europe and how often Europeans were portrayed as the bad guys in American films.
Absolutely. And also grief related to something happening on the job working as a first responder or police officer, because we learn that if you haven't seen the movie yet, go watch it and then come back. But we learn, of course, that McClane's buddy ended up on death duty because he shot a kid. And that's still very much a hot topic today in terms of police brutality and actions of the like.
Yes. And that he couldn't get over that he shot a kid. And I appreciate you bringing up that it's still police brutality still happens, even more so. So if you watch Die Hard, this is still of the area very pro cop, very pro blue. So the cops are going to come in as the heroes and you're going to witness their power dynamics in the workplace. And even the racism, it did touch on the racism that happens when super boss cop comes in and really is disrespectful and doesn't value the judgment.
Yeah, and also the power dynamics, because you have, the standard police, and then you have the covert squad that comes in, and then you have the FBI, and just how, oh, well, I'm this level, and you have to listen to me, and you have to bow down to me, and some of that is even regardless of gender or race or culture, because it's just this hierarchy of, oh, well, I'm in the combat squad, so I'm going to do what I need to do, and I'm going to tell my people. A great example of that is when they're screaming, like, get your guys out of there, get your guys out of there, and they don't want to listen.
And again, I appreciate how you touch on that. This is a very masculine facing movie. I cannot think of the test. This movie definitely fails the gender test, where it's saying women show up and they have conversations outside of the male characters, and that they are there to be characters and not to further the male character agenda. This movie, all the female characters are here to support the male characters. So if you struggle with that or that's hard for you, then this is not a movie for you. This is an 80s action movie full of testosterone. I also wanted to touch on grief, community grief where we
Mhm.
have two actors. We have Bruce Willis, who is
Mhm.
ill, and so fans of his grieving that he's no longer making movies, he's no longer a presence. And then Alan Rickman. Oh my gosh,
Mhm.
I was always a huge fan of his, still is.
Yeah,
And so sometimes some emotions can come up for us when we watch movies that have actors in it that have died or that we know are ill.
absolutely. Yeah, and I think that this, to me, this is one of my favorite movies featuring so many great actors and so many fun characters. I enjoy that it's an action film. I love this type of movie. I do agree that a lot of it is very masculine facing, but to paraphrase Randy Savage, which anyone who likes wrestling, that was Macho Man Randy Savage, it takes a real macho person to get in touch with their feelings. And at the end, when McLean tells Holly, his wife, I was wrong. I couldn't handle your success. I couldn't handle your decisions. I was wrong. It takes a lot for someone
Mhm.
to admit that they were wrong and also admit that they want to work towards something better. And I appreciate that in the end of the movie.
And I feel like you touch on something that was it was happening in the 80s.
Hmm.
In the 80s, women were joining the workforce and they were doing so in corporate careers. Historically, women were teachers, they were nurses. And in the 80s, society started to shift
Hmm.
where it was a dual income. Women had corporate jobs. Women could start making, well, we could argue maybe not more than their husbands, but they
Yeah.
could have a higher position than
Mhm.
their husbands. And the struggle that happened for a lot of families where if you grow up where mom stays home and she takes care of the house and the kids and all of that, and now she's working, that was really hard for a lot of families.
Absolutely. The dynamic shifted quite a bit, and the movie really displayed what was going on in the world. And um I think too, throughout the film you kind of noticed McLean like being checked out by women or checking women out. So you're supposed to see his character as this like very masculine, desirable, handsome, tough fellow, and he can have anyone he wants, but he chooses his wife. And it's like you said, it's very 80s.
Yes, very 80s.
Hmm. Yeah, but I think the movie's great. I love it. I watch it every year. This is on my list of Christmas movies every year. And of course, we do have the party. Anyone who hasn't seen it or needs a little refresher, McLean flies in to go to his estranged wife's holiday party. And before you know it, he's there, and terrorists come in. They take over the building, led by Hans Gruber, and chaos ensues, right? So, of course, McLean is the hero. He outsmarts these terror terroristic guys, and of course he gets a palio on the police force that helps him. And I actually really enjoy their dynamic together. That always warms my heart. um and I just think I think it's a great movie. Margaret, what are some of your favorite things from the movie? I mean, I could sit here and say how much I like it for an hour, but that's not very elaborative.
I appreciate it. It feels like a buddy movie.
Yeah.
The relationship between the two of them. Alan Rickman fan, so I loved his
Mhm.
role. And I know you love this film, and I know you think it's a Christmas movie, and I'm not going to argue that with you. However, I did look up the components of what makes a movie a Christmas
Mhm.
movie. So there has to be a Christmas setting. So
Christmas
we've got
party.
that
Yes.
there. So you can jump in. Themes of hope and generosity.
Yes, because they're having a Christmas party the organization has put on for them. So that's the generosity. And then we have Jack and Holly, or Jack McClane and Holly Gennaro's hope that their marriage is going to work out.
Yeah, okay. Cultural traditions.
Yeah, so um they're talking about at one point they're even like, do they celebrate Christmas in Japan? And so they're talking about culture and traditions. And they're trying, the organization, which is Japanese led, is trying to incorporate American tradition and culture with the employees.
Ooh. Overcoming hardships.
I mean, the terrorists.
Magic and wonder.
Yes, I think the most magical part is the fact that, well, I guess McLean survives all of it, but also the fact that he has on people, like, even if we look at Argyle, who by far is my favorite character in the whole movie, I love
Yeah.
him. He's been impacted so much by like kind of making friends with McLean that he waits for him and then he instinctively knows how to help him what to do, like towards the end of the film.
Yes. Okay. So, redemption.
Uh, their marriage.
So, redemption, transformation, that goes together.
Mhm.
Love and togetherness is
I,
the last one.
well, it's not just the marriage. I think it's how everyone embraces one another towards the end. And actually, the redemption could also be when Holly punches the newscaster for exploiting her kids.
Yes.
Hmm.
So there you go, viewers, listeners.
Hmm.
If you were questioning if Die Hard is a Christmas movie,
It is.
it is a Christmas
Yeah.
movie.
So I have to say, in Annaland, for to be a Christmas movie, it has to have some sort of holiday theme. And a lot of people, you can come for me. I'm not going to change my mind on this. I believe that Rocky 4 is a Christmas movie because the fight with Ivan Drago in Russia takes place on Christmas Day. And the shift in the human perspective, by the end of the fight, everyone's rooting for Rocky, right? And we see Rocky as this great good. Um, so like I said, you can come for me. I'm not going to change my mind on that. But there's so many movies. The Batman movie with Nicole, or not Nicole Kidman, Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman. I believe that's a Christmas movie because it takes place around Christmas time. Um, so yeah, I don't know. That's just my perspective though. And Gremlins is like one of the ultimate Christmas movies.
Mm-hmm.
And I think too that I love like the traditional stuff. I love A Christmas Story, National Lampoon's This Christmas, Almost Christmas, Medea Christmas. I'm just naming off like I have tradition, particularly with my mom, that every year we cycle through what we deem as holiday films. And then I do that a little bit with my dad too. So for me, it's there are so many movies that we watch. Elf, um, Christmas with the Cranks, even though it's one of the weirdest Christmas movies ever, but every year we watch it. What about you? Do you have like a list of movies that you watch every year? And what constitutes a Christmas movie for you?
That is a great question. So, like you, it has to have a Christmas setting. I think for me, a Christmas movie has to have more of that like Christmas spirit, that
Mhm.
Christmas feel. Because as you were talking, I was thinking The Black Coat's Daughter, which you haven't seen. It's a horror movie by Anthony, no, not Anthony Perkins, his son, the one that did
Oh,
Longlegs. And it
Oz.
takes place,
Yeah.
yeah, Oz Perkins during Christmas. It's not a Christmas movie. So
Yeah.
I like a little bit more, yeah, like Home Alone,
Hmm.
Elf. One of our traditions is during the Thanksgiving weekend,
Hmm.
we have Elf-olution. So we watch Elf and Evolution.
I love it. I think that's so cute. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And like Elf is just Buddy. I mean, how just love Bucky. It's so great.
Yes.
And I feel like every time I watch it, even though it's every year, I see something different. What about you?
Yes, I agree. Yeah.
It's great. And I think that the beauty of Christmas movies too is, especially if they're a little bit different than the classics, if it's taking something you already love and incorporating it with like Christmas type stuff. A lot of people associate the holiday season with joy and merriment and kindness and goodwill to one another. And then on top of that, it's something that you already love to watch. That makes it even better.
Yes. I agree. And even I think about Christmas movies and how they can, again, Anna and I talk a lot about continuing bonds. My dad loved It's a Wonderful Life. So that is a yearly watch. This is a way I connect with
Mhm.
my dad. So the ways that movies can also
Yeah,
bring us together.
absolutely. That's the same every year. And I realized we've been watching it. This year will be 20 years. So since I was a wee pup, um, it's called A Boyfriend for Christmas, and it's a Hallmark movie. And we started watching it with my grandma. And the running joke was something would always come up, and we would never see the movie in its entirety. Like we saw it kind of patchwork for a few years, and then eventually we were able to watch the whole thing, and it was just like a big joke amongst my mom and my grandma and myself. And since my grandma's been gone, whenever it's on TV, we try to catch it. And now I make sure that I record it and that my mom and I watch it together. Like you said, to kind of keep that connection
Mhm.
going.
Yes. See,
Yeah,
these feel good holiday movies that just bring us together.
absolutely. And I think even part of it with Die Hard, like this is the type of movie my dad will watch with me. Like for us, our holiday movies are like Die Hard and Rocky Four and The Godfather. I know there's no Christmas in The Godfather, but if you know, you know. And you have to watch it for Thanksgiving and the Christmas season. If you don't know, that's okay too. But if you know, you know. Um, and it's funny that we have different people in our lives that we love so much, and we enjoy things in a different way with them. And it's just cool. What about, do you have any holiday movies that you watch with your kiddos every year?
Oh, what do we? So she was part of Elfolution. That happened when she was younger. So that tradition started with her. Now, no, other than Elfolution, I can't think of anything. When she was little, she loved A Diva's Christmas,
Oh, that's so
which was a
sweet.
retelling of A Christmas Story
Yeah.
with Vanessa Williams. So if you remember, you remember. And she,
Oh,
yeah,
did
loved
she
that one.
oh, what's it called? Tyra Banks was in it, and she was a doll that came to life. And I think Lindsay Lohan was in it with her. Oh, I cannot remember what it was called, but she was like a Barbie that came to life. And I remember that was all the rage when it came out, too.
Ooh.
I can't, it'll come to me eventually, but that was like a big thing when that came out. And I feel like I was just teetering on that, like, it's a kids movie, but I'm too old for this type of thing. Um, but it struck a chord with a lot of young girls. And they had done a
Ooh.
sequel recently.
Oh,
Let me Google it. Then we'll,
yes, please Google it. So I don't think we have traditional movies. We go look at lights, though. That's been a tradition since she was little. That we go look at holiday lights every year.
oh, I love doing that. Life size. That's what,
Ah,
life size. Yeah. That was
ooh.
like all the rage. And I just, I feel like that was a big deal when it came out. And yeah, I don't know. It's just great. But yeah, holiday lights, great. Do you ever think about Black Christmas when you're on a holiday light ride though?
Oh, we're gonna have to do a whole thing about that one. That is, yep, it's coming up in my rotation of holiday movies.
Yeah,
Black Christmas,
definitely. Yep, Silent Night, Deadly Night, Black Christmas, Gremlins.
Krampus.
Yeah, Krampus is great. You know, that reminds me, when I'm watching Die Hard now, because I speak German, a lot of the phrases are completely inaccurate. And I was like catching that on Friday. I rewatched it just a few nights ago. And I'm like, that's not what that means.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
I was
There's
wondering
yeah, there's
that when
like
they were speaking.
yeah, and it's one blooper that really stood out to me. And anyone listening, if you want if I am incorrect in what I thought I was hearing versus what I was seeing, please let me know. But when McLean's on the 32nd floor, they're telling each other he's on the 30th floor because 30 means 30. It would have been 32 to be 32nd. And I was like, that's not right. I was like, why am I getting so worked up about this? It's just a movie, but it is kind of funny just listening to to the language too. But yeah, I think back to Die Hard itself, I think it's a great movie. You have so many great actors in there. Obviously, Alan Rickman, Bruce Willis. We've got Reginald Val Johnson, which I love him, and I didn't realize how many cop roles he's been in over the years because,
Mhm.
like, on Family Matters, Mr. Winslow was a police officer, and he plays a cop in several movies, and I didn't realize that until I was just kind of like, huh, thinking about it. But I think he's a great actor. The one thing that I wish that would have been different in Die Hard is, and I feel like it would have been kind of adding to the cute ending. We find out that one of Holly's colleagues is pregnant, right? So we know that there's a pregnant lady, and then um, Reginald Vell Johnson's character, I forget what he's called in the movie, but he mentions that his wife is pregnant with their first child.
Mhm.
So when everyone comes out, wouldn't it have been so cute if the pregnant lady turned out to be his wife?
Oh my gosh, that would have been amazing. That
Yeah.
would have been great.
So that's the only thing I would change about the movie. What about you? Is there anything that you would change about it?
Oh, that is a great question. I don't know because it's like from the 80s. So if
Oh
we
yeah, that's
redid
true.
it, there would be probably more cultural respect.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't
Mhm.
know. Yeah, it's like it's a classic. So at this point,
Mhm.
how I'm not sure what I would do
Yeah.
differently.
And it's kind of funny how things shift too, because when they're going after all these T bills, and of course my primary gig is in commodities, and I've worked in commodities for a while in different aspects. And I'm like, those aren't even worth anything anymore. You know, it's 2024 now.
Hmm.
If you're going to invest, you probably want to invest in something else. But it was just funny to see how different things kind of shift and ebb and flow. And plus,
Yeah.
they would be electronically kept now, they wouldn't be paper. Um, but you're right, it's very 80s. I do really love that all the executives had their own bathrooms, though. And that was super 80s as well, because
Super 80s.
now many executives just work from home. You still have your own bathroom, but it's in
Hmm.
your house.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, but the one like kind of like part of the movie for me is when he steps on the shattered glass and his feet are all busted up.
Hmm.
It hurts to look at.
Yes, that definitely has like, yeah, it impacts you. You are cringing for
Yeah,
him.
it's just like, oh, ouch. But it's
Hmm.
great. I think if you want some explosions and some fun and some joy, this is a great holiday time movie. And it's full of a variety of characters. Speaking of which, who do you most relate to?
That is a great question. And I was gonna add, yes, lots of explosions. If you are a stickler for realistic explosions, this movie, the
Mm-hmm.
explosions are so unrealistic. The
Yep.
explosions would level like a complete block. That doesn't
Yep.
happen. The building at no point, its
Mm-hmm.
structure is not compromised by
Mm-hmm.
any of the explosions or helicopter crashes, and nobody on the
Right.
ground is
Yeah.
injured by said explosions, which is
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah, so if you're a stickler for that.
it highlights a lot of workplace communication that's funny to me because it's so similar to now, where like the guy was kind of, standing there and he's trying to tell his boss, like, hey, I can shut off the electricity just in that building. And he's like, you got to do the whole grid. And he's not listening. And I'm like, he's found a solution. Why don't you want it? And it's just funny to see the workplace relationship dynamics in several different groups. And even the schmoozy guy, his personality, he thinks that he can apply like a successful sales personality to
Mm,
negotiating with criminals, and at just how full of themselves people are. And um it I love in the end because he was making such a big deal, he had his eye on Holly, and was like, ooh, show up the Rolex you got, and this and that. And then of course in the end she rips the Rolex off and there goes Hans Gruber splat on the ground. um
mhm.
but it kind of just shows how people get caught up in things that don't really mean anything versus recognizing what's important.
That's a great point. And as you were sharing that point, it made me think of The Housekeeper and how 80s this movie is, where the housekeeper, I'm gonna guess that she's Mexican
Mhm.
because the reporter's like, I'm gonna have you deported.
Yeah.
And that racism that showed up in
Yeah.
films, that you had a Mexican
Mhm.
housekeeper and that was the role that the actress got. So she was most likely typecast. And even right
Mhm.
there, like, I'm gonna have you deported,
Mhm.
which is cringy
Yeah.
now. And even there's people in the world that would do that. If you don't
Mhm.
meet my needs, like this reporter,
Oh
meet
yeah.
my needs or I'll do whatever I can. He's exploiting children. So of course he's gonna
Mhm.
exploit and assume somebody
Yeah.
is an illegal immigrant and that she's not here because she was born here.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
yep, this movie's got some cringe.
Yeah.
Back to your question, who do I most relate to? I don't know. Like, it just,
Oh.
I guess maybe a party goer. I'm just an office. No, because I feel like I'd be the first one out. I'd be like, okay, cool. President made a speech. I work with these people enough. I'm gonna go home now. How about you?
So I would say Argyle. And partly because like Argyle is my favorite character, but also he's so enthusiastic. It's his first day on the job. He's learning as he goes. He's trying to make the best out of it, trying to connect with his client. And then he keeps his word. He's like, I will wait for you. And he does. And he's just kind of, I love the fact that he's like, okay, I'm waiting. I said I'm going to do that. How can I entertain myself? So he's totally oblivious to everything else that's going on. Yet somehow in the end, when he realizes the drama that's ensued, he's still there to help. And I enjoy that. I adore him.
You know what? Now that you say him, I see that for you and I take it back and I will, because I totally forgot about him. I love him.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with Argyle, and that I can
Mhm.
relate because having ADHD, I could see myself just completely like, oh, wait for you, just entertaining myself, and for a moment, even forgetting like what I was doing until like, oh yeah, now I
Yeah.
can redirect and show up.
Well, and he's really in tune too, because then he realizes he can hear stuff on the CB in the limo, and he's like, "Oh, okay, let me see what's going on." So he's, even though he's distracted a little bit, he's also super aware, and I appreciate
Yeah.
that.
Yes.
Yes, so if you are bored and it is the holiday season or any season, watch Die Hard. It's fun. It's a great entertaining movie. And if you have any favorite holiday movies, whether they're action, horror, suspense, comedy, any genre at all, comment, let us know. We're always looking for new stuff to talk about and watch, of course. And in the meantime,
Yeah.
don't forget,
Like, subscribe, follow, and comment.
yes, now get back to those coffin cookies and your Bruja brew, and we will see you next time. Until then, bye.
Thanks for watching and listening.